Um, done. Ba-doop boop. Good news, everyone. I am live, apparently. Okay, so let me pretend I'm not live yet, okay? Because I'm going to go over to the Discord on my other screen and just let the community know that I'm going live, as if everybody doesn't kind of know that. But alright, let me go back here to this. Bear with me, friends. Bear with me. Almost there. One more minute. Not even a minute. Here we go. Boom. Okay. So, the other day on the Discord, somebody asked me, I don't remember who it was, and I'm not going to go look it up at the moment, but somebody asked me, what's going on within Futurama? Or I think what they said was, man, I wish you'd get that going again, or something to that effect. Here's what's going on. The Chronicles of Melchizedek is, what I'm doing is I'm working on the script. I'm basically going back and looking at the whole 12 episode arc and just fleshing that out. So, one thing I am noticing, kind of about myself, is that I certainly I have a lot better time doing animation when I know what my story is. I know that sounds stupidly obvious, but as an animator, as a creative person who likes to sort of convey ideas or stories or comedy in animation, sometimes you're kind of eager to get drawing when in fact you need to kind of back up and look at the writing side of things. So anyway, that means I can kind of balance out. I am taking a very long-term view. And in the meantime, I thought I'd revisit the Fan Futurama deal. So here's the trailer in case you're that very unusual person, because everybody on the planet, of course, has seen this, but some people maybe haven't.
Good news, everyone! Futurama has new episodes coming to Hulu!
Hooray! Sweet collection of show resurrections!
It'll just get Wernströmed again. Wernström! That malefactor had us cancelled twice.
I thought it was 3 times.
5 if you count the 3rd and 4th times.
If the show gets cancelled again, folks can come here.
What? Where are we exactly?
So this is fun. That I did kind of create all the logo, shit. So yeah, so the episode that I'm working on does in fact begin with this scene
Coming
here,
to...
and that is not in my pencil test yet, but it's gonna be. So let me go ahead and put that on the preview and go ahead and switch screens and show you what's actually going on here. So I need to put this shot in, at least as a pencil test, take Professor Farnsworth out, and then we can continue from there. So where we're at is basically I'm working on it as a pencil test kind of thing at this point. Very different situation from Chronicles of Melchizedek for a number of reasons. One is this show is being done at 24 frames per second, which is inherently more difficult than 8 frames per second for reasons I won't, bore you with too much. But there's quite a bit more to manage. One of the things that I want to pass on in terms of tips and tricks here that I did notice is if you have a character. I should probably turn the scrubbing off. Let me turn the scrubbing off so that it's not going to be constantly talking to you every single time I scrub it. Okay, and then we'll go back to the video sequencer. Okay, so oops, that's not what I want to do. Undo. So sometimes what you get is you got a character like this. This is what makes it a little more interesting and challenging. With Chronicles of Melchizedek, I can do the animation, and then generally, because I'm doing anime style lip sync, I can just smack the mouth over top of the character, and 9 times out of 10 it works fine and it's no big deal. With Futurama, it's a little different because it's in English, and if you look at Farnsworth's mouth, you can see there's 2 things you want to keep in mind. Number 1, being at a higher frame rate and smoother animation and being in English, there's a lot more phonemes that need to be paid attention to, number 1. Number 2, it's a highly dialogue-driven show in terms of the comedy and stuff. And so it becomes a lot more important to separate the characters and their broad motion, which in this case is just walking around and then lifting up his arm, from the mouth. And it's kind of hard to explain, but the thing is, if all of this was in the same layer, it would be kind of a major pain because every time his lips move or he says something, this entire drawing would have to be reproduced on that frame. So you definitely want to have the mouth and the character in two different layers. The other thing I noticed, and the reason I have this open here, this is actually a lot more useful than I realized. See, initially I put the background and the characters in 2 different grease pencil objects. And again, I'm not going to do a deep dive on why that turned out to be a bad idea. So please take my word for it. It's kind of a bad idea. The problem is, so here's your background. I went ahead and put the background on the same grease pencil object. But the problem is you've got this character who literally does nothing except walk in. Of course, he's talking, but other than that, he just walks in and raises his arm up. And so I didn't really want to do the walking as individual keyframe animation. That seemed like kind of overkill. What I wanted to do was just take the entire character of Farnsworth and have him walk across the screen. The way I've done that in the past with Blender is you add an empty to the scene, and then you can parent the individual layers to an empty, and then you can animate the empty. The problem with that is, and it's a big problem, is once you do that, once the layer is married to the, or parented, I guess would be the proper term, to the empty, then anytime after that, if you start, like if he was parented to an empty, let's just say he was. So we've got his body here, and then the empty animates across the screen, and that gets him over to here. The problem is, everything I do going forward, I would have to keep disconnecting the relationship between the layer and the empty, because once I start drawing, whatever I draw, it looks fine until I lift the stylus up and stop drawing. And what happens is the lines that I just drew will now reappear, translated to a new location that echoes whatever has happened with the empty. However, the signal flow inside of Blender is such that if you use the transform characteristic of the layer, lo and behold, guess what? You can animate that just like you can pretty much animate anything that's a number in Blender. And when you animate the location of a layer or the rotation or scale of it, if you do your animation here, then the grease pencil strokes stay where they're supposed to be. They basically stick to the character wherever he goes. So it seems like what Blender's doing under the hood is they do the translation and then the presentation of the layer, whereas if you do a relation to an empty, it does the presentation and then translates it. So what that means is, in terms of signal flow, this comes before the drawing, if you will. Whereas when you parent it to something, the translation happens after the drawing. So for that reason, as a general policy, just keep these two things in mind. Number one, you can make all kinds of adjustments to your grease pencil stuff using these translation tools. This one up here that's on the main screen, though, this is going to change the positioning of the entire grease pencil object, not the individual layer. So this is useful. Let's say you drew the character and you did some animation and you're kind of deep into it, like you're a few steps into it. You don't really want to have to go back and start over and totally rethink it. This is good for, in fact, actually it looks like this is, yeah, I mean, this is actually out of position a little bit. So this is a good illustration of what I'm talking about. This is good for taking a finished animation or something and reframing it. Say, well, I like my character, but I drew them a little too large or something. Okay, so you could scale them, which this is scaled, actually, as you can see, at 0.442. So this, I think of it more as, if I do the work and then I realize that what I did kind of needs reframing, there's more than one way to do it. You could move your camera, obviously, to change the position and sizing of the characters. But of course, this is animatable too. So this is more for when I need to reframe after the fact. This would be more for when I have an individual layer that I actually want to animate. So I think of this more in terms of animation, probably, and I think of this more in terms of just reframing the shot after it's, you know, largely done or whatever. Hope that makes sense. Obviously nobody has any questions because there's nobody watching right now. Well, that's all right. I'm gonna keep cranking because it's fun. Well, hopefully somebody will show up tonight. People tend to more when I'm in the evening than in the afternoon or whatever. But hey, if nobody shows up, I guess nobody wants to watch it. So
Good news, everyone.
So this is the actual
I've
episode.
invented an instrument that I raise you three. Ha!
Too rich for me.
Okay, so one of the fun things is just kind of deciding on animated storytelling devices along the way. Like right here, this was not in the script, but I'm like, I felt like I want to cut to the other characters, and then it occurred to me, well, why don't we have Bender pop up and take a peek when Hermie looks away? Bender peeks at his cards, which makes sense because then
Invented
Bender's
an
like,
instrument that I raise you 3. Ha!
Too rich for me.
so he basically got Hermes to fold. So that's where. Hey Ross, do you have 2 strand going? Do I have 2 strand going? 2 live streams? Jeez. Stranger things have happened, man. Let me look. If I do, I'll kill this one and just restart. Yeah, okay. That's kind of weird. This shows 2 live streams. I'm looking at YouTube right now. Yeah, okay. That's kind of weird. Okay. Why it's showing 2 streams? I have no idea. YouTube right now. Yeah, okay. That's it doesn't matter. They're both the same, so I guess for now I'm not gonna sweat it. So yeah, we're on the other one. Okay. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I have no idea how many people are around. And this is obviously kind of annoying. How do I switch this? I have no idea how I switch the live stream on YouTube to the other one. So I'm going to take the calculated risk of, I hate to do this, but I'm going to kill everything and come back in 2 minutes with a brand new stream and see what the heck's going on with YouTube. So thanks for letting me know, Ross. It's kind of weird. I'm out of here. I'll be back in a bit. Well, that's annoying. Well, that's annoying. Well, that's annoying. Hang on, guys. All right. Hang on, guys. This is streaming. All right. Okay. That did the trick. Hang on, guys. Okay. Guess I have to actually look at the YouTube channel. Are you guys hearing me now, Russ and Darren? Are you guys... Put something in the chat so I know that I'm on the right screen and looking at the chat. The only explanation I can give, and it looks like... And it looks like... Yep, the YouTube is working. Okay, yeah, everything's cool. All right, so I'm on a different screen to be able to watch. I'm basically participating in the chat the way you guys are. So that's a little strange, but we're going to ignore that. No big deal. So anyway, I believe, in terms of what went wrong here, I'm pretty sure what happened is that I made the calculated risk and obvious mistake of turning on the streaming on OBS before I started the YouTube stream. And apparently you don't ever want to do that, and I almost never do. So I've paid a bitter, bitter, bitter price. So anyway, my question I kind of didn't get around to asking is, you guys have heard everything I've said so far. So I've said a little bit about translation and whatnot in Blender, and basically what the heck's going on with this thing. So if there's any question or something you missed, just say it in the chat and I'll
Get it caught up. And that would be good news.
Too rich for me.
Pay attention.
Okay, so I guess we need to go back to Farnsworth. It is worth noting here. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it now, but see, here's the thing. I didn't put in the establishing shot. I mean, if it was a real Futurama episode, not only would we have this establishing shot, which of course would not have the professor in it, but we would also probably have an outdoor 3D shot, which, you know, because most episodes of Futurama begin with the 3D thing. So anyway, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, I'm just going to keep moving forward. Notably, one thing I did learn, in case you guys are interested in the whole Blender way of doing things, the main reason I'm using Blender and not Krita and not Tahoma 2D is because anything that involves syncing to audio is so infinitely more performant in Blender that there's absolutely no contest. So
Good news, everyone. I've invented an instrument that
I'll raise you 3.
ha,
Too rich for me.
Okay, so
pay
the thing I was going to say is if you have audio, okay, in the sequencer in Blender, this was really baffling. I'm looking it all up and it was really hard to figure out. But basically, I'm like, how come I can't scrub the audio? Well, the answer is you have to go to the timeline, and then it's a playback option on the timeline. Once you turn that on, you can go back to the sequencer and boop, everything works. So as I said, for this I will leave the scrubbing off.
For me.
pay attention.
Okay, so let's get a shot of Farnsworth in there. This is going to be on the character layer, and
Me.
Pay
so it is kind of nice too that we can, just zoom in here and see what we're doing. Okay, see ya. That was me talking to Val. She's getting ready to crash out for a bit.
It's for me.
pay attention.
Okay, so what should we do here? Let me look
Pay
at the audio.
attention. This device makes it
Okay, so I would say I'm going to go ahead and put Farnsworth over here. So for our purposes, I'm just going to put a blank keyframe there on the mouth. And so, yes, I'm giving myself the flexibility of changing Farnsworth's orientation. Obviously, I could always flip it anyway, so no big deal there. So another thing that occurred to me, I'm not going to go ahead and deal with it right now because it's really kind of a housekeeping thing, but I was thinking it would make a lot of sense for a show like Futurama. What I should do is get a reference of each of the characters, trace them, basically just trace them into the Blender grease pencil, and then just whenever that character's on the screen, go ahead and just grab the initial pose. Because let's face it, these guys are usually 3/4, and while it's a good discipline and exercise, I guess you'd say, to learn to draw them, to be able to draw them accurately is a good thing. But in the long run, it is actually kind of a waste of time if you think about it. Why am I gonna keep redrawing a character that is always the same, basically? Now, that's not totally true with Futurama, because if you notice, if you look closely, a lot of times when Farnsworth's talking, they will actually rotate his head a little bit in mid-dialogue and stuff. Alright, and so I don't want to get too clear and strong on the mouth, because again, I'm going to put the lip sync in a separate layer. Right. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. And we'll have him in a scowly mode. A scowly mode. I guess what we'll do is go right here where he says P for pay. And I can come back on the character layer and fill in the rest of his costuming, right? So he just says pay attention.
pay it.
I don't really know if I don't know if I'm doing these phonemes perfectly, but
Pay attention.
okay, so this needs to expand. again, I don't know if I've got this completely right. And I would say let's just duplicate this one. Okay.
Pay attention.
Oh yeah, we can spread this out a little bit.
Pay attention.
There we go. Back to the character. Zoom. Pull out. And then we'll just deal with his costume. Yeah, the thing about Futurama is that I have to say that it's, for live streaming, it's one of those things that's better done when you really know what you're going to do in terms of animation and stuff, when you've got a job to do and there's no question. Because it is such a creative process, it can be. It's like I said earlier, this bit of throwing Bender into this shot was just, I'm just sitting there. I mean, I had this shot of Hermes just kind of, it's like cut to Hermes just to break things up, right? And then I thought, well, as long as we're going to do it, why don't we see if we can punch up the comedy by having Bender peak. So things like that, to be honest, don't really come to me very readily when I'm live streaming. I'm too busy thinking about, not sucking. As a live streamer, I guess.
Pay attention. This device.
Okay, so
Pay attention.
what I'm going to do here, I think, is I'm going to grab actually, this should still be on, if the truth be known. Okay, so let me think about this. What I really want him to do now is brighten up. So,
Pay attention. This.
all right, so right there, it feels to me like he would kind of lean forward, maybe, or step forward. I'm going to take his whole. Okay, so for those who are wondering, like, well, what is it you're thinking about here? Like, why are you so hesitant and blah, blah, blah? What it is that I know that the mouth's going to be all fouled up. So I think what I'm going to do is just hide it. I think that would be the thing to do. Okay, let's go back to draw mode, and let's actually just do a little bit of sculpting. And maybe, let's see, F key. Okay. So the way to think of the sculpting, the rotate, what do they call it? They call it twist. Okay, is that if it's plus, think of where these buttons are. If it's plus, it's going to rotate to the left, and if it's minus, it's going to rotate to the right. So, as you can see, that's actually not too bad, as a matter of fact. Let me see, that's randomize. I want grab. Okay, so let's make this smaller again, and then we'll just punch this up. And okay, so now let's look at this. Okay, so now with Futurama, what you can do is you can put in a little more liberal tweening. So 1, 2, let's just go with, golly, let's go with something like, however long I want it. Zoom, 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 probably feels pretty good. So I'm just going to go Control-Shift-E. Sorry, got to be in draw mode for that to work. Control-Shift-E. Okay, so let's see how that feels.
Attention. This device makes.
Okay, not bad, but for Futurama, you want those kind of little bits of smooth animation more, but I think what I'm going to do is take this out of the center and just tighten it up a little bit.
This device.
Yeah, that's okay.
Attention. This device.
And it's debatable whether, geez, I think his head should probably come back a bit. So let's go back to this one. And okay, yeah, see, that's a problem. Okay, so now we have something we've got to fix. That would be. Honestly, I might have made his head a little long to begin with, so I'm just gonna. Yeah, and then this one, what we'll do, let's go back to here. Let's just take this key right here, duplicate it, and cover up that one. Okay, so now we've really got a problem. So now what I'm going to do is get rid of all these again and do this over. D key. Hopefully that'll do the trick.
This device.
Yeah, that worked. Okay, cool. So that's what you see in Futurama. You rarely see this in Chronicles of Melchizedek. That level of smoothness with like 3 tweens, yeah, that like never happens at 8%.
This device.
But it's kind of important in Futurama. So that's one of the reasons I'm kind of, you know, doing it, is because it really is it's a completely different discipline, honestly. A show like this I shouldn't say completely different, but it's definitely quite different.
This
Okay, so now what are we gonna do here?
This device.
Let me see. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to go to the character layer and consider just how this feels if I turn this around. So all I did was scale it to -1, so that basically effectively flips it. Okay, but if you're going to do that, obviously on the prior frame, this is getting into muddy water here, because obviously a lot of people would be screaming at their screen, why don't you just put it on another layer, you know? And you could give every single character their own keyframe, or their own layer, and then you wouldn't have to fuss around with translations. Clearly this is going to be clunky, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that we can leave Farnsworth in this direction, but I think later I'm probably going to flip him. But for now, for animation purposes, it's fine. So let's go to the mouth and see what he's going to do.
Pay it.
Okay. We'll turn this back on because...
Pay attention. This
Okay. This... Okay. Where did my... Okay, stop everything. Stop everything. It appears that I've messed up here. Yes. I'm not sure how I managed that.
Pay attention.
Okay, right here, this somehow got deleted. So, X, and this is supposed to be a copy of this. My apologies.
Attention. This device.
Okay, so now here, this. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Futurama is all about lip sync. It's really very, very much about lip sync. Now, Darren, if he was chiming in, maybe you have a different opinion because you've done a little more Futurama than I have. Okay, so what we need to do now, painful though it may be, is a little bit of sculpting. And this is what I've been finding. This is basically what it is. It's a lot of real detailed work. Okay, right there's a problem. Darn. Ah, it's tricky trying to make that. That feels right. Okay, if that plays back, you know, maybe it's going to turn out to be okay. I'm not sure.
This device.
Yeah, that's okay.
This device.
But see how it's drifting, though? That's not acceptable. I'm sorry. That's all. Nope. Forget it. Kill it all. So, let this serve as a great example of what I'm talking about. I would never be dealing with this at all on the other show. Not even close. Thanks, Ross. That's nice. This would never be an issue at 8 frames per second when you've got little tweens. And now what we could do, I'll tell you what we should do then. What we should do is take this, put it there, and do the same thing here and see if that does the trick. So we'll go into draw mode and hit Control-Shift-E. Yeah, see, it's like a linear translation, though, is the problem. This might be all I get done today. That's hilarious. But that's why I'm doing it, is because I was kind of curious. Like, what am I going to run into here? And that might be okay. But see, if it drifts at all, if you see it floating around at all, it's not good enough.
This device makes
Let's go ahead and keep going.
device.
Let's keep going and see where this lands us, okay? Because it could be when it's all flowing together that you won't notice it. I hate to be that way because it's a little chimpy. But it might work.
Device makes
Okay, so then we've got
device.
So we've got a that's only going to be on the screen for like a couple frames.
Device makes it.
Okay, what the hell just happened? Okay, I am now starting to, like when I lost that keyframe a little bit earlier, I figured I had accidentally deleted it and not been paying attention. But something very odd is going on here. Something very weird.
This device.
Yeah, that's the S right there. Let's go ahead and put that in there. So just so you guys know, Blender seems to be acting strange, and I'm becoming very quickly here totally discombobulated because I can't think about just executing and doing my job. I can't now because the software is starting to apparently fail me in some way that I literally have no idea why. I have no idea what's going on. I've drawn these keyframes, and then they just disappear. And I hate to say this, that has never, ever happened before that I can recall.
Device.
Okay, so this is going to be back to the... And I tell you the truth, if this continues, I'm going to just stop live streaming because I'm going to have to suss out this problem and figure out what's going on, because this is extremely uncool.
This device makes.
Look at that. What is that about? Let's turn off the onion skins for sure. Wait. Masking. Why would it be set to mask? Okay, that's not cool, but let's see what it was. Huh. It's not mapped to anything in particular, so I'm not sure why that was on. Maybe that has something to do with it. No, doesn't seem to. And this is Vice?
Vice.
Yeah. Very weird. I'll just kind of do Farnsworth from what I can remember.
Vice. Make.
Vice. So really we want this back again. Let me go ahead and kill that keyframe. And dupe this one over here.
Device makes it.
Okay. Makes it is obviously... What do we got here? Let me just double check this.
Vice.
Okay. Vice. Makes it. I think this is all very quick.
Makes it.
Okay, so this should just be an open mouth, I suppose. Very, very weird. Very weird.
Device makes it.
Right there. We lost another one. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to sit and fight with this. This is so strange and so bizarre, and I'm... How did masking get turned back on? I have to go back and watch the video, because did I click something and don't remember clicking it? Does anybody know? Did anybody notice? Did I turn the mask back on? And that absolutely might have nothing to do with this issue. Might have nothing to do with it at all. I have no idea.
Attention. This device makes it Device makes it.
So yeah, the closed mouth keyframe is just gone. It's just erased. What the heck? Unfortunately, none of you guys are Blender guys, so I don't think anybody's gonna have an opinion
Device makes it
about what's going on. And this was a mistake. I shouldn't have put that in there. Can't do that on the mouth layer.
Makes it.
Let's keep going. So this is it. Is this the T right here?
Makes it.
Yeah. There's the T. So I'm going to say, let's erase all this. Okay, wait a minute. Ah, I see what's going on. I just figured it out, guys. Okay. Well, friends, I would call this a glaring deficiency in Blender, but I can kind of understand, at least I know what's going on. Here's what's going on. If I go to another keyframe, what I should have been doing, there's been multiple times what I've done is I erase the current mouth. The problem is, and I tell you, this is a very glaring deficiency. As far as Blender's concerned, watch this. If I start drawing a keyframe, I don't have additive drawing turned on, so it's not going to add to the previous keyframe. It's going to create a blank new one, and that's what I'm drawing into. Here's the magic part that's kind of black magic. If you erase what was there, it does not treat the erasing as drawing. It, as far as Blender's concerned, I did not create a new keyframe. What I did was I just erased what was on this keyframe. May I say, that's brain dead, and probably Blender doesn't work that way anymore. I can't believe that would have, I can't believe that would have, you know, passed muster, you know, for 10 years. And obviously the version of Blender I use is pretty much about 10 years old. So anyway, mystery solved.
This device makes it
And I gotta say, you know, the lip sync looks pretty good.
Attention. This device.
Okay, so now one thing I want to come back to the character layer.
Attention. This
And right here, let's change this. And I need to, what I need to do now, I gotta be careful, is I need to turn on additive drawing so that when I draw, it doesn't delete the whole character. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is just click so that, I guess I didn't need to because technically there's already a keyframe there, but what I want to do is get rid of this and I don't know if that's a good idea. Yes, that's better. Okay, because I want him to look kind of happy. So it's like he corrects them and then brightens
This
up.
device makes it possible.
Yes. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right, so
Pay attention.
anyway, but this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the start. It's one of those situations where, if I was in OpenTunes, the plastic tool would be really useful because I could put in a little bit of secondary animation. And of course, you still can at the ink and paint stage, right? Unless I just leave the whole thing as a pencil test. But
This device makes it possible.
so I am doing, this is straight ahead animation. I do pose to pose, and I certainly extol the virtues of pose to pose animation. But in this case, because I'm syncing to the audio, I'm pretty much just going forward. Okay, so let me see here. One thing that occurs to me here is I really should be seeing this. I'm pretty sure that should be in there. Maybe I'm wrong. Darren, you know the character inside and out.
This device makes it possible.
Okay, so on possible, so here it is. This does help, by the way, having this on the screen.
Possible.
Okay, so possible. Right here, I would say this is where we want to, let's do it this way. Let's go into edit mode, grab everything here. We'll anchor the cursor at the base of his neck. Okay. Hit the O key so that we're in. This is a little more controllable than sculpting. If you sculpt, you've got to really dial in the range of the sculpting tool so you don't mush around stuff you didn't mean to. If you use edit mode, you can actually set an anchor point. You'll see here in a second. You can set an anchor point and basically create instant joints, if you will. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to turn, I guess I'll turn this off, and because it should only put a keyframe wherever there are strokes. So I know I'm teasing you guys, I don't mean to. Here's the deal. You see, if I expand the range, the problem is, as I said, I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but it turns out it doesn't matter. Once you turn off auto lock, it's going to put when you move stuff around, it's going to put a keyframe on every single layer. So I need to go back and delete the extra. These are erroneous keyframes. The only keyframes I wanted were on the character layer and the mouth layer. So let me just look here. Okay, it looks like I didn't really move it yet. Yes, there you go. I just wanted that sense of that he's kind of, perking up. So let's get rid of these keyframes, and let's get rid of that keyframe, and go back into draw mode. Okay, and so now we could do the same thing here with this layer, which is we'll go here.
Possible.
We actually could just, honestly, just delete that.
Device makes it possible.
Okay, strike that. I guess I do want the P sound in there. Well, I don't have a P sound in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that right now. Go to the mouth layer. And we'll give ourselves a one frame, well, two actually, of I'm really trying to punch up his enthusiasm here. I may be going too far, where I'm starting to lose the character. That would not be good. Okay, stop everything. Okay, I see what's going on. I see what's going on. I've made yet another mistake. As I say, this is a really different process. Because I turned auto lock off which is almost never a good idea, may I say. Usually you want to auto-lock your layers, because if you don't, what you're going to do is you're going to, A, create keyframes all over the place that you don't even remember why they're there. And number two, you run the very real risk of being in the wrong layer and not realizing it. And so let's go back to this layer. See right here, this needs to be recapitulated. And I would say this is probably, you know, I'm just trying to make Farnsworth look cheery. Okay, so now the bad news probably is, okay, now we cannot do tweening. I was going to do a tween here, but now we can't. And the reason we can't is because this drawing and this drawing are not the same. If they were the same other than moving the points around, then it would be fine. But because I drew into it, can't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this key and move it back 2 frames. I'm basically working at 12 frames per second, even though the timeline is 24. And what I'm going to do now is go into edit mode again and go ahead and grab this and just move this a little. Okay, I might have to make an adjustment on the mouth layer too, but we'll see.
Is it possible? Is it possible?
Okay, this is too late, so let's go here and we'll just move this back, and it's going to be a disaster, but we'll fix it.
Possible?
Okay. This is the art of the animator right here, because you have to be able to go down. It's the same way when you're working with music. You have to be able to go in slow motion, go way down to the slowest, make changes, and kind of guess what the result of those changes will be when it plays back in real time. So now I'm going to hit do the sculpting tool, and I'm going to just push that up. Okay, so hopefully that'll feel good.
Makes it possible.
It's still late. This is late. Okay, so I'm going to take all of this and go back 2 frames, take the character, move that back 2 frames, because all I'm trying to do is get this synced up better with the voice. And what I might discover, it's a real risk that you run with higher frame per second animation, is you might find that things get out of sync and sort of the magic of the animation kind of disappears, you know. I find lip sync is fun, but doing the lip sync is less fun. Drawing it is fun, but doping it is less fun. Nice channel icon logo. Thanks, man. What did I do? You talking about the little cartoon I made of myself? I was just trying to change things up. That picture's
This device makes it possible.
okay. It's all still too late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off auto lock temporarily, and I'm just going to take all of this stuff and just move it back.
This makes it possible.
There we go. I got it. Okay, so now we can turn auto lock back on. I need a hotkey for that. I definitely should have a hotkey for that.
Makes it possible.
Okay, so now we can keep going on the mouth layer.
Possible.
Okay, so he says pos, so the S is actually there. Draw mode. Let's just erase all of this just to see. Okay, let's fix that right now while I'm thinking about it. That right there is 1 frame out of sync. I'm actually compliment myself, I guess, because I can't believe I'm doing such a good job of not losing the characterization. It still looks like Farnsworth to me, which is kind of cool. Damn.
Makes it possible.
Okay, and this is still this is early as wait. Is it early or late? The drawing is late. The voice is early.
Is it possible?
Okay, so the bull is here. So it looks like we need to be a little ahead of it. So if I know the bee is there, then I need to be back more like this. So let's go ahead and do it. We'll just kind of have fun with it a little bit.
Hooray!
Okay, and then he gets interrupted by Zoidberg. Okay, cool. All right, so now...
Attention! This device makes it possible.
Hooray!
I mean, it looks good to me. I don't know. Does anybody have a different opinion? Okay, so...
This device makes...
So, I think... Okay, so this gets back to what I was saying earlier about the difficulty of higher frame rates and scene organization. You really need to break it up into layers. It's just a balance because you don't want to have too many layers because then it becomes very cumbersome. But having said that, look what we have here. I mean, we've got, well, the character layer is not so bad. The mouth layer has a bazillion keyframes, and the body or character layer only has a couple. But what I want to do is bring his arm up into the scene, so we might as well put it here. I just basically gave myself 2 layers because I figured I'm going to be bouncing between possibly one character and another. It doesn't matter which character it is. I'm just going to be bouncing between them. And sometimes it's nice to have, you know, a couple layers to work with. So let's go with this.
This device.
Okay, so
This device.
Okay, so right there. Let's flip this. I think it'll be easier for me if I'm doing it in this orientation. So I'm going to put his hand up on the screen, and then what we'll do is we'll work backwards from here. Once this is on the screen, and we know how Farnsworth's, he's got these little kind of pointy fingers. Okay, so let's just go like this and get this in there. And then we'll go backwards. Yeah, because that's actually too high on the screen anyway. So now let's just kind of fix this up. Obviously, this is pretty sloppy. Okay, let's just erase all of those and... Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Might be a little thick. He has kind of wimpy little fingertips, from what I recall. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now this does not look good to me. I'm feeling like I'm wanting a little more palm, and then I guess what we need, this is the acid test with Farnsworth, isn't it? You need to have enough wrist so that you can see the wrinkles. If you don't have enough wrist to see the wrinkles, then you probably don't have enough wrist. Okay. So, yes, his lab coat does not seem to have like a cuff or anything. Okay, so now what we'll do is let's just grab this and see where it feels right. Actually, it doesn't feel right anywhere to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little modification to it. No, I don't like that. Let's turn the influence way down. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. And now all I'm doing is I'm just looking for where it feels right to me. That kind of feels right. Okay. Now what we would do, first of all, let's just assume it's going to come up in the space of just a few frames. So if we put it here, okay, what we're going to do now, we're working backwards. So now what I'm going to do is just pop this down here, and this is probably going to be obnoxious, but let's go into draw mode and just do that. Okay.
This device makes it...
Yeah, way too...
device makes...
you know, it just looks stupid. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll anchor the scaling here, and then all we're going to do is hit the S key and scale all this. That's going to crunch all those keyframes together.
This device makes it
Okay, and so then on the TV screen,
This device makes it
that's fine. That's fine. Now we're okay. Okay, so
device makes it
okay, right there, I would say. I'm just, again, animating straight ahead here. It doesn't require a lot of change, but just something.
device makes it possible. Device makes it possible.
Hooray!
Okay, so
Possible.
now we're going to cut to Zoidberg here. All right, on my other screen, I'm going to pull up this so that I've got some kind of reference. And this is not from the show. This is actually from the trailer, the teaser, I guess you'd say, that I did quite some time ago. So, character 2, I'm going to hit the draw mode and get rid of that. Okay, and why didn't it get rid of it? It didn't get rid of it. Let me hit undo. It didn't get rid of it because I'm in additive mode. So I want to just get rid of that. Get rid of the mouth. Get rid of the character. Okay? And now I'm going to just draw Zoidberg. And then I think, let me see, 7 o'clock. Yeah, I think after I draw Zoidberg, I'm going to call it quits for this session. I really haven't been that into live streaming in the evening so much. It's a little better because it seems like more people come around. Which is nice, you know. It's nice to have people that want to hang out and, you know, see what you're doing or hear what you have to say, I guess. All right. Okay. And by the way, Inio-san, haven't seen you in a while, man. Good to see you here. Okay, so that'll be the first frame. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Zoidberg's eyes do not go cross-eyed, right? So if the pupils aren't lined up together nicely, then you can call that an error, because while a lot of cartoons, you know, there's a lot of latitude when it comes to, you know, little cross-eyed looks and stuff, but I don't recall ever seeing Zoidberg's eyes crossed. So, got to be picky. All right, and so he's wearing a lab coat as well, and his collar, he has a little collar going on. Something like that. Okay, so he is...
Hooray! Hooray!
Okay.
Possible.
Hooray!
Let me think about this one for a minute. This does not quite feel right to me. For those who are animation purists who say, dude, why don't you just, why try to sculpt it? Just redraw it if you didn't get it right. That is totally legit. Totally legit. And one of the characterization challenges with a guy like Zoidberg is going to be, and with a lot of characters in Futurama, frankly, is that their the eyeballs are literally round. I mean, they're perfectly round. And so if you're a little off, you can feel it. You can't necessarily tell what's wrong, but you can feel it. Like something's wrong. These lines need to be thinner for sure, and yeah, see, now look at that. That's what I was talking about. His eyes look cross-eyed now. That's not cool. Can't do that. So it's pretty meticulous, you know. It may be harder for me because I'm used to my characters. I'm used to my own characters on my show. And so I have to learn new characterizations, you know, to do this. I don't know if that really belongs there. It's kind of in the reference image, but if it is, it's got to be pretty subtle. Okay. Okay, so the way I want to do this, frankly, is... Let me turn the mouth layer back on for a minute. Okay, yeah, there's nothing there. So why don't we do this? Let's trace... Why the hell does the... How does the masking keep getting turned on? That's happened like umpteen times here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, just for a moment, turn this down. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in the most cheating way possible. I'm going to trace what I drew here but into the mouth layer. Because this mouth is going to definitely require some serious articulation. And so now I'm going to turn that down, turn this back up, and on this frame just start erasing. Just erase all of this so that it's not in the character layer but in the mouth layer. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, and I'm going to... I see Valerie, and I'm going to hang out with her. So the trick with Zoidberg is basically this. We don't want to be in additive mode. From what I can recall, what you want to do is, and probably this is a great example where the skins should be turned on. Okay, I turned on the skins, and I see nothing, which means I got to go into my greater skin settings, and I don't want to do that right now, so I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, and what you want to do is, he's got to really be, these bits really move a lot. They do move a lot. And honestly, the way I'm doing it right now is just as good as using onion skins. It's probably not quite as quick, but you get the idea. Okay, so 1, 2. Don't want to lose the volume. Okay, don't get this starting to be too thin. There you go. That's better. If you really wanted to be smart about it, smarter than I'm being, then what you probably would want to do is what I'm doing right here, where you, it's like I always say, work from the known to the unknown. Draw the ends where you want them to be, and you know where these demarcation points between them are, right? So then based on that, you can kind of ferret out where, you know, where the overall shapes need to fall. Something like that. I don't know how he does that. I'm going to have to learn how to do that.
Hooray!
Okay. So, okay, I got to go. That's it for now. This is a little too thin. Let's see. He goes...
Hooray!
So right there, this should be pretty big. And we'll see it open under here. Fun stuff. Definitely fun stuff. And so I need to have, the next thing is these need to go and wiggle, right? So, okay, is Blender trying to tell you something about wearing masks? I don't know, man. It's very strange how the masking keeps getting turned on. But it's probably what's going on is I'm grabbing the layer, and I'm probably, like, Well, like I just did. I'm probably going like that. Like I click it and it doesn't. I didn't click the layer. I accidentally clicked the mask, and then I click a second time because it's like I didn't get it, and I forget. I don't realize that I just turned the mask on. I'm almost sure that's what I've done. So, okay, that's it. There will be more later, guys. I may do this thing and actually just release it on YouTube as a pencil test.
Good news,
Ultimately,
everyone.
I'm not sure.
I've invented an instrument
ink and
that
paint's a
I'll
lot of
raise you
work.
3. Ha!
Too rich for me.
Pay attention. This device makes it possible.
Hooray! My good hand.
See, it's looking good. I mean, it feels good. So anyway, I'm going to save my work. And with that, friends, as you know, there will be more later. And honestly, I'm not actually sure I know how to kill this live stream. So I'm going to kill OBS and it's going to die. And then I'm going to have to search through YouTube to figure out how to actually turn this off. So everybody have a good night. And thanks for hanging out.